Do not fear, for God's with us. God is good, God is grace. God will never hide her face, 'cause God is. God is. God was never angry. God was not against me. God was never far away. God's not disappointed. God's not keeping score, and God's not judging my mistakes. God is light, God is love. Do not fear, for God's with us. God is good, God is grace. God will never hide her face. God is. God is. God is. God is. God is light. God is love. Do not fear, for God's with us. God is good, God is grace. God will never hide her face. God is light, God is love. Do not fear, for God's with us. God is good, God is grace. God will never hide her face. I see so clearly now, God is in the mystery. God is always with me. I was lost, now I'm found. Everything I once thought, blinded by the love. And I see so clearly now that God is in the mystery. God is always with me. I was lost, now I'm found. It's everything I once thought, blinded by the love that God is. God is. God is. Oh, God is. God's never angry. God was not against me. God was never far away. I see so clearly now, God is in the mystery. God is always with me. Let's sing that again. And I see so clearly now, God is in the mystery. God is always with me. I see so clearly now, God is in the mystery. God is always with me. I see so clearly now, God is in the mystery. God is always with me. God, this paradox that we sing about. God, that you're in the mystery, that there's this way in which that you are close and can feel so far away. God, this morning, may we know that the confusion, the mystery, all of the things that would represent how we feel close or far away from you, God, that's all true, it's all welcome, it's all a part of this process. And God, maybe for these next few moments, we could just be present here with ourselves, with each other. God, that a few deep breaths might just help a little bit. In your name, amen. Can we seated? As you're sitting down, make sure that you take a few seconds to greet the people around you, and then we'll continue with the morning. Standing here in your presence, in a grace so relentless, I am won by perfect love, wrapped in arms of heaven, in a peace that lasts forever, sinking deep in mercy. See, I'm wide awake, drawing close, stirred by grace, and all my heart is yours. All fear.
Well, good morning, everybody. Of all mornings that we need to speak to each other and say hi and really ask how you're doing, it's this morning, isn't it? And so my name is Kim Honeycutt. I am a teaching pastor here, and I've been asked to do the announcements. But since my amygdala has been hijacked this week, I'm about to hijack these announcements. So before I do what the church knows I'm going to do, I want to tell y'all, since this has been a week of disconnection, that to me the epitome of connection are puppies. So Larissa and I are getting a puppy. And so we have a picture. This is gonna be our Simba. This is Simba. If you would like to donate to the Simba GoFundMe, please see myself or Larissa afterwards, because she's as expensive as she is cute. So we appreciate that very much. But we also want you to have other ways to connect and be a part of this amazing, great community that's right in front of you. So there's different ways for y'all to do that. One, we want you to know that we have an organization here called Inside House called Kindred. They are having a coffee shop in the very first room when you walk into this building. Afterwards, you want to get coffee or a hug or a high five or a reminder that you are worthy. That is a good place to stop by and do that. Also remind you that we have 1,000 QR code moments, but we only have one QR code because we believe in unity. That's why we do that. But that QR code would take you of how to connect and fill out the connect card and be a part of what we're doing. And we also, another way to connect, invite people to be a part of this, is that we now have yard signs. So where other yard signs are being taken away, remove them and get them out of our face, then this yard sign can come, so people will know that you are a safe person, you are an all-inclusive person, and that there is a place that you can invite them to and come be a part of something greater than any of us can do alone. So please, if you haven't got one of the signs when you first walk in the building, they are out there. Also, we've wrapped up a series, a grief series. We're going into a new series, and our new series is about Nevertheless. But we're going to end it in a couple of weeks, and it will be ended on what we call Friendsgiving. So that means it's a whole bunch of people who come right here. We sit at a table together, and we break bread, and we eat, and we have all this fun. I will not come because I can't stand how y'all sound when y'all eat, because I have misophonia. I won't be here, but the rest of the staff, who are more normal, a little bit more, less sensory. Well, I don't know if I can say that, actually, come to think of it. But David, that's you. Hey. What's up? What's up? How you doing? So anyway, y'all come to Friendsgiving, especially if it's hard for you to be around family. This is a family that we make it easy for you to sit and break bread and be around. So we have that. Also, there is an organization that's part of what we do here. We partner with them. We can definitely just vet them and tell y'all that Youth Villages is top notch. They help kids in the foster care system, particularly kids who age out of the foster care system and how they get treated. And for Christmas, they are just targeting and loving on kids that have aged out, but also were negatively, severely impacted by Hurricane Helene. So if you want to be a part of that, making sure these young people get gifts, get things that are just necessary for them, then go to that QR code. You can see where you can get to Amazon and be a part of the gift list and the guest list for them. So thank you for your generous hearts and for being a part of that. I think that's all my announcements, except the real reason why I'm here. And I just want to say this. This has been a very destabilizing week for a lot of us. This has been a very disharmonious week for a lot of us. But for some of you, that's not true. So I'm going to ask, if you're not in that category with us, as I walk through this and talk about this, will you just hold space for us? If this has not been a hard week for you, that is really okay. Just hold us in an act of love as I talk about this, for those of us that this has been a very dysregulating, scary week. And I want you to know that your nervous system has most likely gone into a trauma response. And your system, your internal system, did exactly what God created it to do. And your system is not broken. The systems, the external system we live in, they are broken. And they have called your internal system to go into a trauma response, whether it's fight, whether it's flight, whether it's freeze, or it's flop. You've gone into something most likely. And so most of you know those. You know what fawning means. It means you're trying to appease people, like hold back your political beliefs, all these things. Whatever you're doing is what you need to be doing right now. But a lot of us flop. And flop means that we have a hard time getting out of bed. It's hard to get up and to walk and to talk and to go back to feeling safe again. And so please be where you are. Please, if you're not there when you're around people who are, please don't uninvite them from where they are. Let them stay where they are. We're all in a different healing process right now. And then wherever you are, it is okay. Let me validate that as a therapist. Let me tell you that it means that something just got shifted inside of you, and that your system's doing what God designed it to do. But when we are depressed, and depression comes from oppression, when we are there, the only way to get back up means we have to stop on the fight response for a little while. We have to end up going there at some point. But our journey is to get out of fight and get into a place of connection. Because see, when you are connected to yourself, you experience empathy and you experience compassion. It's the only place empathy and compassion come from is when you are self-connected. So this week, what has gotten me through all of this and sitting with so many people who are so triggered and so much pain right now is I keep thinking about Micah 6:8. Do justice, love mercy, walk humbly. And what you know, walk humbly means to not play small. Even though if people are trying to muffle our voice, it means that we will walk humbly, we will walk loudly, we will walk for each other. And that we're not going to humiliate anyone else, nor will we stand for any of us in marginalized communities being humiliated either. And we're going to love mercy. We're going to give mercy to each other and to ourselves and build each other back up. And from there, we can do justice. We can have the collective anger that is productive. But as we're in that, those of you who are already self-connected that keep doing what you're doing and loving on yourself and those around you. And as we do that, We will do justice. We will be the example of mercy in this world. And we will walk humbly and loudly. And I want you to know, Donna, I'm going to walk humbly for you and walk loudly for you. Julie, Robin, I will do justice for you. Robbie, Samantha, Rachel, I want you to know, I see you, I will walk beside you, I will do justice for you. James, I want you to know, I see you, I see where you are, and I will do justice, love humbly, love mercy, and I will walk humbly and loudly on your behalf. Jonathan, I'm going to do justice for you. I'm going to show mercy, be mercy, and love mercy, and I'm going to walk humbly, but I'm going to walk loudly for all of you. And that's how we step through this. This is how we get back to that place of connection, the here and now, the place where we get to be excited about a puppy, that place where puppies live every day in the present moments, why we love them so much. So go out, be a puppy, do justice, love mercy, and you walk humbly and loudly.
Saturday, I found them bed of roses. Wondered what they would say. I learned to love the sunshine, learned to love the rain. Seeds are better growing. Both are coming the same. The journey's never easy. The deeper the roots run, you'll find that you're at peace when the heavy wind comes. Ooh, we're all running from something. Our yesterdays are gone and they ain't coming back around. And tomorrow comes when it comes, you ain't gotta hunt it down. And maybe the hardest part is understanding how to be here now. I'm looking at the ocean like a mirror back at me. Who are you becoming? Who do you want to be? 'Cause the years are like the waves now. They come and then they leave. Since this moment never again will be. Ooh, we're all running from something. Ooh, we're waiting for that next moment. Ooh, we're all running from something. Ooh, we're waiting for that next moment. 'Cause our yesterdays are gone and they ain't coming back around. And And tomorrow comes when it comes, you ain't gotta hunt it down. But maybe the hardest part is understanding how. But maybe the hardest part is understanding how to be here now. To be here now. To be here now. To be here now. To be here now.
Good morning. My name is, wait for it, David Roberts. And I have the unenviable task of speaking today. No, y'all want to speak? Y'all seemed very okay with that. Yeah, welcome. So, like Kim noted, we're kicking off a new series today, and it's new and it's not new. If you've been around here more than a few months, you maybe remember. If not, that's actually probably good for us to know. But you maybe remember that we do something called Nevertheless. I try to do at least twice a year. It is our word. It is our sort of mini-series that we do that's sort of like a state of the community, kind of update you on where we are as far as kind of like what we've been doing this last year and, you know, things to celebrate, but also maybe some updates on some of our partners, liberation partners, ministry partners, and then also casting some vision for the next like 6 months. You know, we try to do it in like 6-month increments. And, you know, so this has been on the calendar for a long time. The precise timing of it, I don't know if it is accidental, serendipitous, providential, what have you, but yeah, I mean, even before the events of this week. I'm talking about the election, if that's not obvious. Even before Tuesday, I sort of had it in my head, like, whatever I'm going to say, however we're going to kick this off, whatever I'm going to talk about, I kind of want it to work either way. I kind of want it to make sense either way. And, you know, there was going to be certain things that were going to be easier or harder, kind of regardless of, depending on how this week played out. But so we'll see. I have no idea if I'm going to be able to do justice to that goal, but that is at least my attempt. One sort of complicating factor that I was kind of hoping would be resolved by now, but unfortunately isn't, is that I'm on the tail end of something, and I kind of only recently learned about what this is, but I'm on the tail end of something called walking pneumonia. Yeah, awful. It sort of makes sense because, yeah, I've had no problem kind of just like walking through the like the normalcy of my life, but with this kind of nagging cough. So that's why I'm using this old school microphone here, this hand microphone, whatever this is, just in case I have to do, one moment, that from time to time. So that's sort of like a public service announcement. I'm on antibiotics. I'm not contagious. You're all safe. But that's just kind of how I'm showing up this morning, among other things. So here's how I kind of wanted to start off this morning. I wanted to start off by doing something. I don't do this often. if you've only heard me speak one time, like a month ago, I showed a whole bunch of pictures of my family, and that was like probably the first time most of you had ever even seen my family. I'm typically kind of a private person. I'm not a good storyteller. I don't think. Some of you might disagree with me. You're wrong. There is no detail to me when I'm telling a story that seems superfluous, and so I include all of them. And it's not always obvious to me which details in a story someone else is going to connect with, so I'm just kind of like, well, let's just cast a wide net. And, all the details are present. And so yeah, so we have other speakers here who are not me, who are better at telling stories and talking about their family and stuff like that. But today I'm going to humor you and talk a little bit about my family, or at least some of them. My wife is spared. These are, that's weird. Let me fix that. There we go. All right. These are my kids. These are my daughters. So on the left is Marina. She is 11. In the middle, that's Leia. Yes, that is her name, Leia. And then Clara on the right there. And let me put it this way. This morning, this series, in many ways, this morning is about choices. It's about decisions. It's about watershed moments. You see, I've been part of this church, I've been part of this community for 8 years now, about 6 of which have been on staff. It's weird to me that I'm the second longest tenured staff member. I'm not counting Austin anymore because he weaves in and out. So he's lost his second tenured status. I claim it. But that's weird to me. But anyway, in the entire time I've been part of this community, I've always really felt we don't really talk about our name much. It's kind of a weird name for a church, right? Watershed. And oftentimes people will be like, it's Watershed Charlotte or Watershed Church. It's just Watershed. Just Watershed by itself. We put Watershed Charlotte in the URL for the website because Watershed was taken, probably by some sort of geological survey website or something like that. Because that's one of the meanings of watershed. It's like this, I'm going to get this wrong. It's something with water and rocks in the earth, probably. But there's this other meaning, and I think maybe this is why we don't talk about it a ton, because y'all kind of just know this. But, if someone says, this was a watershed moment, it's a watershed moment in my life, or it's a watershed moment for our country, perhaps, you know what that means. But it's a moment where you're confronted with a kind of interruption, a rupture, something that disrupts or undoes or undermines the taken for granted sort of normal ways of going about whatever it is that you're doing. And I think sometimes we think of these in once for all time senses, but more often than not, these watershed moments are happening all the time. Sometimes we're even unconscious to the degree to which we are making these decisions in moments where, a proverbial fork in the road is kind of presented. And in many ways, almost on a daily basis, my children serve as a kind of watershed moment for me. The decisions that I make, be it the mundane decisions about how I'm going to order the minute-to-minute, hour-to-hour moments of my day, to the bigger decisions, the life decisions, the career decisions, the where am I going to live decisions, the political decisions, the spiritual decisions. At least for me, they're made with them in mind. Many of you know this. In 2016, pretty big year, as that year began, I was working at a pretty cookie-cutter evangelical megachurch in the suburbs of Phoenix, Arizona. And one of those moments, when I was, at some point, when was this? Probably about April or May of that year, I was presented with a document. And the invitation of that document was, sign this and continue to have a job. And what I would have been signing along that document with things, myriad of things. One of those, of course, was I had to affirm that not only, it was actually pretty extreme, not only that marriage must only be between one man and one woman, but simply having attraction, simply identifying across the LGBTQIA spectrum was wrong. way. And so if you're curious as to whether or not I signed it, yesterday afternoon, I was in Richburg, South Carolina, presiding over the wedding ceremony of the most adorable lesbian couple I've ever met, other than all of the ones who are here. And so no, I didn't sign the thing. In fact, in typical autistic Enneagram 5 fashion, I wrote a 32-page research paper with endnotes, the final page of which was me essentially acknowledging that we were perhaps at an impasse, which they soon acknowledged by sending me on my merry way. And then after that, my wife and I made a choice to find a community where documents like that would not be slid across the table, literally or metaphorically. And we began to search, and we happen to have friends who are in the Charlotte area. They're not here. They're lovely. They're elsewhere. But we knew, they were very near and dear to us, and we thought, well, maybe Charlotte. And so we started to look, and I kind of knew how to find the kind of church that I was looking for, reading between the lines on websites, although I didn't have to really read between the lines on Watershed's website. But I tell people we didn't move for Watershed, but we did move here because of Watershed. So we didn't come here specifically to be part of this community, but finding this community is how we knew that we could come here. We knew that we would have a home here. And I didn't know, at the time, to be perfectly honest, I didn't actually envision that I would be in vocational ministry anymore. And in fact, the first times that Watershed came to me and asked if I had any interest in re-entering vocational ministry on their behalf, I declined, which I probably needed to do for a season. Leaving Arizona was traumatic. But the short version of this, and you're beginning to see why I'm a terrible storyteller, because my short version is like y'all's long version. But no, the short version of this is we leaned in, we plugged in at a certain point. About 2 years in, I came on staff, and I've never regretted it. But that doesn't mean it's just been easy. In fact, and I don't mean this as a criticism of Watershed, this is the hardest place I've ever worked, by far. But it's also the most rewarding place I've ever been a part of. Not just worked, been a part of. Folks have come and gone, and then come back, which is the best. It's been a struggle. In fact, some of you are familiar with our mission statement as a church. Watershed is a community, awakening, struggling, and loving together as if a different world is possible today. And maybe some people are sitting in this room right now skeptical about that last bit, that a different world is possible today. But that, my friends, you see, sometimes I don't like this mission statement of ours because it feels verbose, which means wordy. And part of the reason it is so wordy is because all of us, collaboratively on our team, we all got to contend for a different piece of it. And the hill that I kind of planted my flag on, that I was willing to die on, was I need the word struggle to be in there. That felt a little maybe negative. We want to be positive, but no, this is a struggle sometimes. Even in a place like this, where our intent, at least, is that everyone here is safe and welcome and belong. There is still an element of struggle kind of latent in that. And that became very clear to me very early in my time here, before I was even on staff. Because remember, like I said, I came here in 2016, which again, just to be on the nose about it, was the last time we kind of had an election, kind of like the one we had this week. And that was interesting for me, because the thing that I had been holding on to sort of in the ensuing interim months between, getting pushed out of the church in Arizona and ending up here at Watershed, was that, okay, well, at the very least, maybe I'm getting out at the right time, because maybe our nation is at the precipice of maybe a shift towards sort of just and generous, inclusive, sort of loving posture of being and faith and spirituality, that I was feeling myself convicted and drawn towards, which is what caused me to kind of be at that impasse with my old church. And then that is not at all how it played out, at least at first. And here's kind of where I want to enter into this conversation as it relates to the events of this week. I don't want to suggest to you in this moment that what then happened over the next 4 years as I leaned into this community, as my family leaned into this community, as I came on staff, as people came and went, and we sort of processed as a community what was going on in our world. I don't want to say that all of it was okay or good. I mean, it was hard. That struggle piece is real, but there was an energy, there was a unity, there was an invitation that was both sent out and received collectively over that period that I'm very cautiously, very humbly, but very hopefully hoping that we can capture again. But I'm very optimistic about it. Even in the short time this week, even in the stories I've heard, the folks that I've talked to, the things that I've seen from you, from this community on social media, fiercely optimistic that this community, it's not so much that we got away from it, but that it can be sort of rekindled in force again. And there's a passage of scripture that was important to me in those early years that I sort of clung to as sort of I'm going to say something that might sound icky to some of you, kind of a life verse for a season. Maybe that doesn't sound icky to you, in which case, welcome to Watershed. But yeah, it was a mantra of sorts, and it's not going to strike you in the way that maybe the sort of verses that it's not a Jeremiah 29:11 sort of thing. Some of you might have that tattooed on your body. We'll talk about that later. But let me read it to you. It's in the book of Exodus, chapter 12, verse 38. I'm going to let it sit for a second because I don't think you're prepared for how much this is not the verse you're expecting it to be. A rabble of non-Israelites went with them, along with great flocks and herds of livestock. Right? Inspiration there. Just straight from the mouth of God. No, so to understand why this verse is meaningful for me, I need to give it a little bit of context. So most of you have probably at least seen the Prince of Egypt. So you know the Exodus story a little bit. And in that story, obviously, the people of Israel have been oppressed, enslaved by the people of Egypt for hundreds of years now, and Moses has come. And this verse is showing up after the plagues, after the let my people goes stuff. I'm going to prove myself to be a terrible Bible scholar at the moment. I don't remember if it's before or after the Red Sea, but it's in that genre of sequential moments. Anyway, but the point of this verse is that as the people of Israel were very quickly taking their things, gathering their belongings, their families, and getting ready to leave Egypt, there was another group, a rabble, it says, another group of people who were like, you know what? I'm going with them. I don't know what's coming. My life here has actually probably been pretty comfortable, or maybe it hasn't. I don't know. We actually don't hear about these people. We don't know really anything about them. They're sort of an enigma. You can sort of, I usually tell people, don't project yourself onto the characters of the Bible. In this instance, go for it. Let your imagination run wild. We don't know anything about these people other than they chose solidarity. And so for me, in the lowest moments, and this is interesting, the lowest moments of my life have been in the last 8 years, and the highest. Not in this either or sense, but in this both and sense. You all know I love that construction combination of words. In a both and sense, oftentimes in the same season, the lowest and highest moments of my life have been in the last 8 years. And at all times, there was a need, a requirement perhaps, that I was making a conscious, active decision to do the next right thing. And for me, more often than not, I'm not saying this was the only next right thing in any given moment, but for me, more often than not, the next right thing was leaning into this community. Sometimes that was because it gave me something to do with my hands, with my time, with my gifts or abilities. Sometimes it was because it gave me someone to learn from, to learn with, to do this work alongside, which, spoiler alert, means all of you. I don't know where I would be, more broadly speaking, had it not been for my ability, the invitation to lean into Watershed over the last 8 years. I know for sure I would be a hell of a lot more cynical. So much more cynical. There are times when this community has hoped for me because I was not able to do it on myself, believed for me, loved for me. And I say that as someone on staff, a pastor. We kind of play fast and loose with the whole pastor thing here. Sometimes it's a great honor. And other times I'm kind of like, y'all are pastors too. We're all pastors together. Let's pastor one another. I think I'm leaning a little bit more into that latter one this week. Maybe for the next 4 years. So yeah, this passage has been sort of an ever-present reminder for me that, kind of in sort of classic Frozen tradition, into the unknown, as we lean into things that perhaps feel unprecedented, feel surprising, feel shocking, feel as if they don't compute rationally or logically. There's an invitation to do the next right thing, to stand in solidarity with each other, like this rabble of non-Israelites and their livestock did. Can't forget the livestock. In fact, the Bible, this has nothing to do with anything, but the Bible is typically very concerned with livestock. Go read Jonah, end of Jonah. Really, really elevating, centering the livestock. So I don't know why I said that. I mean, it's true, but it doesn't have anything to do with what I'm talking about this morning. The word that I really want to tie to what I'm talking about this morning is faith. I think some people might think that like hope or love, don't get me, I love me some hope and love. Hope and love are great. You should have more of it, share it, give it, get it, look for it. Hope and love are awesome. But faith is the Christian virtue it's not, and everyone can have faith. But it's the virtue, it's the concept that I've been thinking about, meditating on, sort of leaning into this week. And here's the thing, in my faith, spirituality, my belief system of origin, faith was typically this more passive thing. Faith was, I believe the right things, I'm on the right team, I'm gonna go to heaven when I die, therefore I don't actually have to take responsibility for anything. I'm free to just pursue comfort, pursue pleasure, pursue the status quo because, God's in control. And God's going to make it all right in the end because I have faith. Sort of this blind trust in basically my privilege being God's will. And, well, for one, I don't think that's a really good biblical definition of faith, but it's also pastorally so lame. Like, that's really what we're inviting people into. Like, it's boring, bordering on offensive, actually. But fortunately, the biblical vision of faith looks a lot more like this rabble of non-Israelites and their livestock. The biblical vision of faith is a choice. It's an active decision. And unlike the notion of faith that I was raised with, successful faith, meaningful faith has nothing to do with whether or not you win in the end. Nothing to do with it. In fact, the sort of faith that I see in the Bible is a determination, a willingness, a decision to lean in, to do the next right thing, to stand in solidarity with the oppressed, to go out on a limb, to put yourself potentially in a position where you will in fact be, at least in the world's eyes, losing on purpose. Sort of in spite of everything. The biblical notion of faith is exactly what we mean by this word, nevertheless. Looking out at the circumstances in front of you and saying, I don't really see a way forward here. Nevertheless, even so, I'm going to do the next right thing. And that's not going to look the same for all of us in this season. That's true all the time, but I just want to make this explicit. Kim did a phenomenal job of this a little bit ago. I'm going to just echo her. What the next right thing, what faith, what leaning in looks like. for all of us is probably going to look a little bit different depending on how we're showing up, depending on what season of grief or trauma response we're in, depending on the intersections of our identity, depending on any number of factors that are deeply relevant here. All of it belongs, all of it is needed. And honestly, we're probably going to move through some different stages of what I'm meaning by faith here over the course of, if not just the next 4 years, this week. You know, give yourself permission for all of that to be here, to be present, to matter, and to belong, okay? But this idea of faith, I promised some friends in the room that I would quote a few wizards this morning, which get used to that if you're new and you haven't heard me before. I do that a lot. But the first wizard famously said something to like this. He said, I'm gonna paraphrase it slightly, but he said that in moments like these, in moments like the one that many of us are facing, feeling, and remember, I said that this was going to be the same talk no matter how Tuesday went. So keep that in mind. But in moments like these, all we have to decide is what to do with the time that's given to us. There's going to be a temptation to sort of map the whole thing out. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't be vigilant. There might be moments that come in the very near future where we need to take more extreme measures, whatever that looks like. And I don't want to speculate today what that looks like. But no, I'm not saying that we should be passive. We should be very active, very vigilant. And yet, give ourselves permission to be present, to focus on the time that is given to us today. What can we do? What can we continue to do? Because here's the thing to keep in mind. The people in this room have been doing good work already. And so some of what you're being invited to do now is not to do this new thing, this new unprecedented thing, but no, faithfulness is to continue to make the decision to continue to do the things that you've been doing, the mundane things of solidarity, inclusion, love, checking in with one another, holding space for one another, praying with one another, bearing one another's burdens. Don't stop doing that. That's all still needed. And, not but to quote my second wizard friend, there may come a time when we do have to make a decision between what is right and what is easy. I'm not going to tell you who the wizards are. I think you all know. But, okay, well, it's Gandalf and Dumbledore. But no, that is the invitation in this moment. That's the choice sort of in front of us. I want to give you an example. And I mean this in the most admiring of ways. This is not a profound example. It's a mundane example, but it's a beautiful mundane example. In fact, my super awesome sweater, which you can purchase at Target, was a little bit worn in honor of this example that I'm about to give you, because when I think of the Healer family, the folks I'm going to introduce you to or reintroduce you to, because many of you know them, remind me very much of the Healer family. This is the Healer family if you've been living under a rock. Sidebar, if you don't know what Bluey is, do yourself a favor, pirate it, go to subscribe to Disney Plus, whatever you got to do. This is like the most wholesome thing in the world right now, and our world could use some wholesomeness. So again, that also has nothing directly to do with the message, but if there's a lesson for today, it's like go binge Bluey. But no, also if there's a lesson for today, if you don't know this family, you should get to know them. So check out the Uris.
So I am Mark.
I'm Morgan.
I'm Beckett.
Eden, and we're the Yeri family.
And we are at Watershed in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Microphone.
Hey, Beckett.
Hey, guys.
Shoot.
Yeah, we were kind of inconsistent with going to church anyway and sort of fell into that routine in the pandemic. But church, what it looked like, I feel like just kind of changed for us. Church became like a family walk on the Greenway every Sunday, or reading books together. So there were positives that came out of it, but it was also pretty hard and isolating time.
Yeah.
When we finally were like ready to go back to church, we just kind of felt like we had maybe outgrown that space for that time of life, and we're just kind of looking for something new. And that's when we found Watershed.
We were looking for a more inclusive, more expansive kind of God, and we feel like we believe in a diverse community and people that, you know, don't all look the same and maybe don't all believe the same, but are, you know, hoping for a more kind, loving world where we all, you know, are treating each other kind of like Jesus talks about. And we found that here at Watershed. Kind of we began to sort of go through the deconstruction phase. We both grew up very evangelical, and what really mattered just kind of broke out of our own, you know, our old binary boxes. I think from a community that is just, yeah, it's just ultra welcoming. And I think we've both been at churches in the past, speaking, you know, specifically for the LGBTQ kind of IA plus community, where even in spaces where it seems like, oh, hey, you know, we're going to celebrate you, there's still kind of red tape that goes with that. And we started to notice that some of the people that were in our lives who showed us, I guess, what we thought Jesus was and cared about and God cared about the most happened to, you know, fit into this community. And that was one of the areas that directly, you know, hit us right at home, where it's like, oh my gosh, okay, well, this person shows us what we think matters. Like, there's gotta be space for that. We live 30 minutes away. Why do we come every Sunday, or try to, as much as we can with these guys? But
I think just knowing that they're in such a good place with Greenhouse, and just in a place that's gonna like foster kids' like innate curiosity, just knowing how impressionable yet naturally curious they are, it's very comforting to know that they're in a place that is going to be not just giving them answers, but encouraging those questions, and that there's no wrong question to ask, and just hopefully giving our kids less to unpack from a faith standpoint than we have had to unpack. I guess just moving the needle in a slightly better direction.
I think one thing I've realized is you don't end up at Watershed on accident, or maybe you do, but you don't come back on accident. And it is a place that just I feel like cultivates this community of seekers, people that do believe that change is possible, that humans, you know, we can treat each other in a way that allows us to live in a more kind, loving, less judgmental world. And I think people here really try and put into practice what it means to take care of each other, take care of ourselves. If I had some vision of what I thought, you know, a church was, I know there's no perfect community out there, but I feel like Watershed is a space in this season of our lives and our faith journey that is trying to actively live out what I think a church and a faith spiritual community can look like. And it's a beautiful space that we're really look at our beautiful mess that we're happy to be in. And yeah, we absolutely love it here, and we're super grateful for this community.
Love it. What do you have to say
To our fans? Grace and peace.
Do your best.
Bring your mess.
So they're not in the room with us right now because they're volunteering in Greenhouse because they're noble and generous with their time. But if you don't know Mark and Morgan and their kids, and or if you see them, feel free to love on them as not just today, but you know, forever, you know, and in general going forward. But they said a few things that I kind of want to camp on for a moment. And I say for a moment because as I watch this timer, I'm like, oh, I've got plenty of time left. But then I see what the real life time is, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to be more generous with your time and maybe speed it up a little bit. But they talked about what I've been talking about. They talked about, you know, you don't come here by accident, or if you do, you don't come back by accident. One of the things I want to leave you with this morning is that level of intentionality. Whatever happens in the coming weeks, months, and years, let it be on purpose. That's the invitation to this community, is whatever we do, whether it's continuing to do what we're doing or adding to that or some combination thereof, let's do those things on purpose. It might not always be the best thing or the right thing, but if we're doing it together and if we're doing it on purpose, I think it'll be a good thing. All right? And then that last thing that Morgan said right at the end there, bring your mess. A lot of us feel like a mess this week. A lot of us feel like we are surrounded by a mess this week. Let's make that a feature, not a bug of this community. Bring it all together. Because here's the thing, if all of us are sort of doing the next right thing, making the next right choice at sort of like a mundane individual or even kind of like smaller group level, then like a whole bunch of individual mundane next right thing kind of choices are going to add up to something much more profound over time. And there's sort of a tension that I want to invite you into to sort of hold between sort of like this audacious, aspirational belief that this community, not just in the next 4 years, but just in general going forward can be this sort of like lighthouse, beacon on the hill, sort of like source of hope and refuge for people. And then at the same time that the way we do that is just like normal faithfulness. Just like showing up for one another in the ways that you already are really, really good at. Like I know that there's probably going to need to be new things that we need to do in the near future. New things that we need to do. But the main thing I want you to do is keep doing what you've been doing. Keep being with and for one another. There's so many ways to do that here. So many ways to do that here. And here's the thing, you will rotate in and out of the season where you are being with and for and holding space for someone else and then switching spots and someone's going to be doing it for you. We're going to be alternating between those sort of different positions, not just in the next 4 years, but just in general, because that's what it means to be human. That's life. Kind of two more things I want to leave you with. The first is a quote that's going to feel like it's going to feel like a hard like into our like dark and twisty feels turn, but there's a poet named Christian Wyman who he wrote this amazing book, optimistically titled "My Bright Abyss," and you all should read it. It's great. But there's this quote that has stuck with me. I found it probably around the time I moved here, and I think I think it captures a lot of the spirit, I think, of this community, kind of where we are, and kind of what I want to leave you with. And there's a both andness to it. It'll be on the screen. What you must realize, what you must even come to praise, is the fact that there is no right way that is going to become apparent to you once and for all. The most blinding illumination that strikes and perhaps radically changes your life will be so attenuated and obscured by doubts and dalliness that you may one day come to suspect the very truth of that moment at all. The calling that seemed so clear will be lost in echoes of questionings and indecision. The church that seemed to save you will fester with egos, complacencies, banalities. The deepest love of your life will work itself like a thorn in your heart until all you can think of is plucking it out. Wisdom is accepting the truth of this. Courage is persisting with life in spite of it. And faith is finding yourself in the deepest part of your soul, in the very heart of who you are, moved to praise it. In many ways, that quote sort of captures who we want to be as a community. We're not perfect. I think we're good. Matt said that a few months ago, and it stuck with me. We're not offering some sort of notion of victory, wholeness, or completeness. We're offering awakening. We're offering struggle, but we're offering love. And we're pretty confident that on the other end of that is a different world that is possible. And sometimes our experience of that world is, seeing and realizing and working towards systemic change that changes the material realities for the people around us, and we want to celebrate that. And sometimes that world is the exact world that we live in right now, just seen through a different lens. And that second one is at least available to us today. We can see the world around us, the people around us, through a different lens. A lens of faith, a lens of hope, a lens of love. And that's the invitation. In the minute and 8 seconds I have left, it's going to be a little longer than that. There is one other piece of this, and so I'm just gonna put all my cards on the table here. Okay, so part of this nevertheless thing that we do biannually is sort of casting a little vision, kind of updating you all on the state of our mission, our work, which includes the financial sustainability of this work. And I do not love the implication that me talking about money was any way related to the results of this week. So let me just name that. That's awkward for me, and now hopefully it's not awkward for all of us. And in order to make it not awkward for all of us, I have chosen to inject a high degree of humor and levity into the next few minutes. So at least you have that to look forward to. But let me just give you a little bit of context, okay? So we went into 2025, and spoiler alert, Matt's gonna talk a little bit more in detail about this next week, so you have to come back. Okay, I'm just going to sort of give you the Cliff Notes version. But we went into this year with certain financial goals, and there's good news and bad news. I'm going to give you the good news first. The good news is we pretty much met them. Yay, you can celebrate that. Good job, you met them. Good job, you guys are awesome. The bad news is because of circumstances that were completely out of a handful of our household's control, it has nothing to do with them being angry at Watershed. They love this place so much. Something happened to them that happens to so many of you, so many of us. Their financial situation changed. And so the goals that we had going into the year, and then this situation sort of changing in the latter half of this year, kind of offset. And like I said, Matt will go into more detail about this next week, but I'm going to put some numbers up on the screen in just a moment to kind of let you all know kind of how we want to end the year and kind of how we want to go into 2025. But before I do that, I'm really, really excited to introduce to you our strategy going forward for meeting these financial needs. Are you ready? You may or may not know it, but these people who, I didn't think I was going to have to do this, but based on a meeting we had beforehand, I've learned I have to explain who these people are. That's Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively, or Deadpool and Serena van der Woodsen. But I'm actually joking. This is not the strategy. However, if anyone does know them or runs into them, feel free to invite them to church. There could be an opportunity here. No, but no, that is not our strategy for continuing to fund the important work of Watershed. To the surprise of no one, this is actually the picture I chose to represent our strategy. So for the people who didn't yell, yeah, just now, that's Goku. He's a Saiyan, which is an alien, who in moments of great love and great suffering can bleach his hair. Not really, but really what you're witnessing here is him powering up, which is very cool. And But I mean it when he says like the conditions under which this happens, this very cool thing that's happening in the picture that is very cool. I'm going to keep saying that until you all believe me. The conditions for this to happen are indeed great love and great suffering. And I think great love and great suffering, or maybe you can substitute the word struggle there. Great love and great struggle is what we're sort of is what we are invited into over the next few years, whether we like it or not. And so when I think of my heroes, one of them, of course, is Bandit Healer. But no, I mean, Goku's not real, unfortunately, but Bandit is. But no, just remembering that even in a goofy Japanese anime television show, comic book, manga, that's all about like powers and shooting laser beams at each other and flying and stuff like that, that even in something like that, the source of power, the source of difference, it's not the things that we normally think of. It's love and struggle. It's solidarity. And so I say all that and I put this cool picture up so that it's not too jarring when I throw up some actual numbers. So here's our goal for the end of the year. By the end of the year, we want to increase our recurring giving by $4,000 a month, which is basically what we unexpectedly lost in the latter half of this year. That'll just get us back to this break-even point to continue doing the important work that we're doing. That end of year 50K goal makes up the reserves that we've had to delve into in order to sort of make up this monthly reoccurring loss. And then that first half of 2025, one time and recurring goal is our aspirational goal. It's what's allowing us to dream, to do the work that we feel we need to do, that we feel called to do, that we feel convicted towards. That work includes continuing to be, and then hopefully being even more generous with our liberation partners. That work includes expanding our team and compensating them in a just and fair way. For me, if I can speak honestly for a moment, that work for me is all about this building more than anything. This building is so important. On a weekly basis, not just on a Sunday, on a weekly basis, there are so many more people who come through this building than are in this room right now. And I don't want to make you all feel unimportant. Y'all are super important. But the work that happens in this building on all the other days of the week, the recovery groups who meet here, the organizing groups who meet here, we have folks meeting here who are teaching people Spanish so that they can advocate for their Spanish-speaking neighbors who are being used and abused by unfair tenant practices and landlords and things like that. Those meetings are happening here. We have nonprofit groups who are doing important, necessary work, who have been doing important and necessary work, and that work is going to continue to be important, who are meeting here. Keeping the doors of this building open and the roof from leaking, because it's leaking a little bit, is important. I want to keep the doors of this building open the next 4 years. And there might come a time when we have to keep the doors of this building closed in the next 4 years, perhaps to keep out some ICE agents, because we might be sheltering people here. This building is really, really important. And that's a huge piece of where your generosity goes when you're supporting this place. And so whatever reason you've chosen to lean in the past, whatever reason you're here today, whatever you're feeling, all of it is valid, as we've been saying. All of it will continue to be valid. And whatever it looks like, for some of you, the invitation is not going to be to these numbers. The invitation is going to be to doing what the Uris are doing this morning and hanging out with our kids. It might be volunteering in the back with Sergey and Caleb, who are super awesome and would love to meet you. It might be showing up and helping with some of those things that I was talking about, some of those midweek things that happen, the meaningful work that happens in these walls outside of a Sunday morning. It's going to look different for all of us, and it might evolve for each of us over time, over the next few years. But the invitation is to be present and attuned to those watershed moments, those moments of decision and invitation where you have a choice to do the next right thing, whatever that looks like for you, to lean in as opposed to retreat, to choose solidarity as opposed to security, to choose community, curiosity over certainty. That's the invitation of this place. That's what at least I mean when I say the word watershed. I think that's what this community means. It's evolved so much in the time that I've been here. And amidst all of the emotions that everyone is feeling today, I have so much hope, so much optimism, and so much faith that it's going to continue to evolve in beautiful ways, not just in the next 4 years, but hopefully the next 4 decades. Thank you for being here. Thank you for leaning in. We'll see you next week.
As we close this morning, I want to invite you to stand if you're willing and able and sing with us. God, this morning, regardless of how we are currently feeling, regardless of how we are currently showing up this morning, room of people, there's a room of connection available. And so like Kim said earlier, God, there's all the space and all the room for us to be where we're at. And God, when we're ready, God, we pray that you would show up, that you would be near, God, and that we would follow that example, that we would be there for one another when we're ready. And so, God, this morning, as we close out, as we go into this week, God, may we find the moments where we can take some deep breaths, that we'd remember that we're not alone, that there's a group of people who love us. God, we thank you for this morning and the opportunity to slow down for a second. We love you. We love each other. We pray all this in your name. Amen. Thank you all so much for being here. Hope you'll join us next week as we continue this series. Have a great week.
Standing here in your presence, in a grace so relentless, I am won by perfect love, wrapped in arms of heaven, in a peace that lasts forever, sinking deep in mercy. See, I'm wide awake, drawing close, stirred by grace, and all my heart is yours. All fear removed, I breathe into, lean into your love. Oh, your love. When I'm lost, you pursue me. Lift my hand to see your glory, Lord of all. So beautiful. Here in you I find shelter, captivated by the splendor of your face. My secret place, I'm wide awake, drawing close, stirred by grace, and all my heart is yours. And all fear removed, I breathe you in, I lean into your love. Oh, your love. Your love so deep is washing over me. Your face is all I seek. You are my everything. Jesus Christ, you are my one desire. Lord, hear my only cry. You know you all my life. Your love so deep is washing over me. Your face is all I seek. You are my everything. Jesus Christ, you are my one desire. Lord, hear my only cry. To know you all my life. I'm wide awake, drawing close, stirred by grace, and all my heart is yours. And all fear removed, I breathe you in, I lean into